Hey, welcome back. So this is Kai of Cannabis Society of Hawaii, and we're back with a special guest today. I don't know if you got a chance to see the last video, but we dropped a video, and that was actually on YouTube right now. So from that video, we got the next guest, and he is a great guy. He's provided so much great information and put it out there. And so now it's our turn to kind of show him some love and get this information and share it with others. So I'm really happy to bring on Dr. Otto. All right, Dr. Otto, how are you doing?
Hey Kai, how you doing today?
I'm awesome. I really appreciate you for taking some time to talk to us. I know you've been doing a lot of work. Your website is amazing. I've been checking it out because there's so many updates, and that's kind of where we're here now to kind of shine some light on all this amazing work you've been doing to kind of shedding light on these issues of cannabis and Hawaii. So, would you mind maybe just telling us a little bit more about yourself and maybe how you got started with what you're doing now?
Sure. First of all, thanks for inviting me to be on your channel. I'm very excited about the emergence of Society of Hawaii. I know you've also been putting a lot of work into that, and I appreciate the focus that it has on getting information out to people and to patients because that's desperately needed right now, and that's why I've been doing what I've been doing. Um, so I got into this probably about 10 years ago because of a friend who had colorectal cancer, and I learned firsthand how this person was able to benefit from the medical use of cannabis. And frankly, I think that saved their life because they were able to reduce the pain enough and stimulate appetite enough where they could actually keep on weight and keep their immune system strong while they went through all the surgery and chemotherapy. And so ultimately, I think that really played a significant role in their being able to survive. And that's what motivated me to start doing some research on my own. There's actually a lot of research out there on cannabis, a lot of it done back in the 70s before the drug war went into full swing. And a lot of great research going on these days as well. But so that really kind of solidified my interest in the science side of cannabis. And then I looked towards our own program, Hawaii's medical cannabis program, and the laws. And that's when I saw some very serious deficiencies and started to become a bit of an advocate for our patients to try and get them the protection that all patients deserve under a state authorized program. So that's how I got into this initially. I was asked by the Department of Health to fill the physician's position on Hawaii's dispensaries task force, which is what came up with recommendations for the legislature to create a dispensary program for Hawaii. So I have seen a bit of its history and frankly concerned about the direction that it's heading. And so that's why I've been trying to engage primarily at the legislative level, because I think that's really where a lot of the change needs to occur. And so first got into this, as I mentioned, in 2011. My first contact with Senator Willis Sparrow, who previous state lawmaker, very supportive of a lot of these issues. We originally put together a research bill to do medical cannabis research in Hawaii,
Nice.
which at the time was very naive because I didn't know much about the interaction between the state and federal regulation of controlled substances and the limitations on being able to do research under the current circumstances. But that was kind of my first taste of the legislative process, and have had some very interesting experiences over the past 10 years that have led me up to this point.
Well, that's awesome that we get to hear your insight, your thoughts, and your opinions because, from your position, I feel like you have heard a lot and seen a lot, so you can actually help steer us to, maybe a better way of doing it, right? And this is where maybe what's working right now isn't working best for everyone, and this is where they're, part of the project that I was working on is having more places to talk about it. And all the work that you've done and all the letters that I've seen on your updates page, I'm just like, well, there's a lot of good stuff right there, and it's if we start recognizing what that is and maybe start sharing it and talking about it, I think we'll get a lot more traction. That's why I'm super excited to kind of get a chance to get deeper and look at your website, because the updates page, I see things over there almost every day. There's like things happening, and this is where I'm not sure if the rest of the cannabis community knows all the things that are going on. And so this is part of the way to shine more light on all these different resources that we have in front of us and say, hey, can we look more into it? So I'm super excited actually to get into your website and the updates page, because like I said, there's been a lot of fire going on over there, and I think a lot of people just need kind of like maybe click and take a look. So I'm gonna put us into this new scene here, and I'm gonna let you kind of take us through some of these updates. So we're on cannabishealthcarehawaii.com, and this is actually the updates section. And so Dr. Otto has been doing a lot of work over here, and I'm going to scroll down so you guys can kind of see some of the work that he's been doing.
I think you might have to shift over to the actual updates page.
Got you. Thank you, Doc.
Awesome.
This is why we need you. All right. So I mean, this is actually really awesome, because there was just an update just recently. So
yeah, well, the most recent update is pretty much a direct result of your interview with Peter Oshiro the other day. And I think it really highlights the importance of having people talk about these issues that we're facing, because it really brings it into a certain perspective that shows us what needs to be done. And one of the things that Peter was talking about was the current limitations with where the Hawaii's medical cannabis program is currently placed within the Department of Health. I don't know if anybody has actually tried to go into the Department of Health's website and figure out the maze of different administrations within the Department of Health and where everything is located. It's a good exercise to do sometime. And I did it just the other day to locate what Peter was talking about. Where is the food safety branch? And what administration does it fall under? Because that branch has a lot of expertise in this area. They're already doing a lot of the similar type of regulatory efforts.
Agreed.
And according to Peter, they were actually involved in this before the program, before the Office of Medical Cannabis Control and Regulation was created in 2018 by a bill that was signed into law. And that bill placed OMCCR under its current location, the Health Services Administration, which really does not have any experience in this area. So
that's exactly what Peter was saying, is that they helped set up the program, and it got moved to a different program where they didn't really have an idea. And again, that's what kind of Peter was saying, is that they actually have the ability to help now, right? And they have the ability. He said if they had, here we go. If they had a chance to, okay, hold on, I lost the scene. All right. Well, if they had a chance to take over the program, they could do it with the manpower they have, because they've been working with big establishments and in the health industry. So they have a lot of experience, and that's why I think Peter is a good person to look to moving that program back. It's not like it wasn't there in the beginning, and that's the good thing. So, but I understand Peter's struggle. Yeah.
The resources are there. I don't know exactly why it was placed where it is right now. I don't even remember how that even came up during public hearings, because I've been very focused on another solution that we might be able to touch on a little bit later. But that's what generated this letter to Director Char at the Department of Health, a suggestion that they move the program. It would be something that could be done very simply by a statutory amendment. And that's what I suggested in my letters to Senator Keoho Kalole and Representative Imane, who are the chairs of our Senate and House health committees. And so for folks who want to start to engage and create some positive change in this area, it's going to be important to understand how the legislature is set up, which chairs govern which topics, and how certain bills are assigned to certain committees as they travel through the legislature. It's usually health is number one because it's a medical cannabis program. Judiciary is usually involved, sometimes ways and means and finance. But health is a critical one. And we have a really unique opportunity this session because the Senate Health Committee, which was folded into the Senate Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee when dispensaries were created, 2015, was just resurrected by President Cauchi and the Senate leadership. And they put a young, open-minded senator as its chair, which I think really opens up a lot of options for focusing more on patients and the issues that our patients are facing.
I agree. So does that mean that we, should be writing to this person, or
Well,
what
I
can we
mean,
do?
yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole topic just unto itself. What is the best way to create effective change? And I think that the one thing I would say at the very beginning is that if you're going to interact with an elected official, you have to always be professional and polite, but there's nothing wrong in being persistent. But you have to maintain that level of professionality and respect for the office if you want to gain any respect. That doesn't mean that you'll necessarily be listened to. There are a lot of other factors that determine that. But you cannot allow emotions to get in the way and create a fight or allow insults to start happening, because that's just going to stop the whole conversation immediately, and you'll become ineffective.
Wow,
But
that is
I have to
gold.
say,
I'm really glad you touched on that, because that's speaking how to be effective with what you're doing, and I think people need to hear that. So I'm really glad you touched on that.
yeah, that's I'm glad I could put that out there for those who are interested in getting involved. And the other thing is patience. I went into this in 2011 thinking we could fix everything in a year or two, and these changes take years, and they take very strategic planning, and they involve engaging as many stakeholders as possible, rather than just trying to slip something in, get something introduced, and then trying to convince everybody that it's the right thing to do. It's important to gain momentum and understanding at the beginning, and that's why I'm encouraged this session, because there does seem to be more traction developing for one issue in particular that I've put most of my energy into, because I see it as really the crux of all of the other problems that our patients in our dispensaries are facing. And this is also a very interesting session because there's a lot of talk about expanding the state's authorized use of cannabis to include recreational use. And that's certainly something the state could do. It's well within its authority. But that means looking at a larger set of stakeholders and making sure that there aren't any existing conflicts that could hurt such a state authorized use.
I agree totally what you're saying about including as many stakeholders as possible. I think in the beginning, the program wanted to be like just cautious, and that's why it was set up in the way. But after we have built some knowledge and data, and to move forward in a better way, we should be able to use that. And that's where I don't think we've been able to turn that corner yet. So we're still kind of not there yet. But the cool thing is, as I went through your updates, you've been putting updates for a long time. So if anybody really wanted to go back and kind of see a timeline of all the important issues that were raised, they can easily go to your website and kind of just scroll through the update section, because there's a lot of dates and times of letters being sent to people. So this is where, if people want to look at all the different things that has already been done to see maybe where they can do things, I think this is a great start to go through your updates, because along with the dates, you go back pretty. There's things up here all the time. It's a really good snapshot of all the information that I think people need to know where we're at right now, because these are issues that you've been vocal about for a while. So,
Well, and I've been writing letters like these to our state officials and the Department of Health since 2011. I just haven't been able to go back that far and post them all. I've been very busy with getting ready for the upcoming session. But as you scroll through, you can see there's letters to chairs of our labor committees in the legislature and Department of Health, Department of Transportation, Judiciary. I'm trying to involve as many different committees and stakeholders as possible, because that's the only way that we're going to get enough understanding for there to be a consensus that, yes, this is something that we need to do. And the thing that I'm referring to is trying to get the state to do something to end this conflict with the federal regulation of marijuana. And I see that as really what's creating all these other problems, because you can't have a state program that people are walking around believing violates federal law. That creates all kinds of negative consequences that are affecting our patients and the dispensaries. So you'll see some of that on my webpage, some proposals for a bill and a resolution to address this. And it is starting to get some traction, as I mentioned, possibly because of this growing interest in recreational use. I just wanted to say that as a medical doctor, I'm in this for my patients. I'm not an advocate for recreational use, although that is something that is well within the state's authority to adopt. But I believe that we need to focus on our patients first and fix the current problems, take care of our patients before we jump to a broader authorization that could potentially make things much worse if we don't fix some of the current regulatory problems.
wow, I feel the same way. I think that when we have that mindset to care for patients, we empathize with all the things that they could be possibly going through that we don't understand or know. And this is where, for me, it's hard to imagine how to put a limit on somebody's, because we don't understand their pain really. So it's kind of, for me, like a hard area to say, we want to jump to rec so quick, but we're not ever able to take care of some of the people who are really suffering. And that's kind of, I think we could do better. And that's why I'm glad we can get together with you to hear more about all the things you've been doing and all the work you've been putting in, especially because these letters, for regular people, I don't think they can write something like this. So I'm glad we have somebody that can write a great letter to help give us a voice, because I know you talk to patients as well. And I think there was a TV thing that had you featured, and you were talking about patients, and you had them come to you and say they want things that are better too. So that's why I feel like when they confide in you and you're helping to write a letter to help represent these patients, I think more people should look at that angle and say, hey, well, what else is going on? What else is he saying? What else are patients talking about? Because I do think the medical market, if to me, if eventually one day that we could get medical insurance to help pay for natural remedies, I mean, that would be awesome. But I think if we look at the rec side a little bit too much in adult use, then we might miss the chance for even that to even be considered. And maybe for some that's okay, but it's always medicine is always tough for everyone. So why not find a way we can get some help and assistance? But Yeah, so I really
Yep.
appreciate all your work you've been doing on that. As I keep going through your website, though, I mean, like, I know you said you did something in 2011, but man, there's still some, like, if someone even went through part of this, they would spend a lot of time because there's really good stuff here. And I'm not even like a third a page down. And I can't even imagine how many letters that you've put on here. This is kind of nuts.
Well, I just felt that it was something that needed to be done because I'm not seeing a lot of other folks in my profession who are able to do this kind of thing, either because they just don't know enough about cannabis or afraid of the medical use of cannabis. And it just put me in a position where I just had to do it. I didn't really have much of a choice if there's any chance of getting some of this to change. And I'm glad that now you're able to bring some attention to this because my hope was that by putting these up here, that this would be kind of like breadcrumbs for people who are looking, what do I do? How do I change this? I know something's not right, but I can't really put it into words and I don't know who to talk to about it. And I'm hoping that this will offer some direction. But if you go back to the original medical use of cannabis bill back in 1999, the introduction says that part of the intent of that bill was to make Hawaii an international research and treatment center for the medical use of cannabis. And I think that was really visionary at the time. And I think there is a huge potential there that the state is missing, giving our geographic location, our isolation, our ability to exquisitely control our state borders, the sunlight that we have, the climate. We could really be a center for quality, state of the art medical cannabis treatment and research. And that's really what I'm trying to promote because that was the vision of the original drafters of our medical use of cannabis bill.
It's a
So
beautiful idea.
I'm just trying to carry that forward.
I think you're 100% that, we have the opportunity to be that. We are already in the epicenter of this ring of fire in the middle of the world. So I think, we could be the epicenter of cannabis leading technologies, especially as you just said, with our climate and all that. We have a real special place here with the energy we have and all that. And that's why, as you're mentioning, getting these things out, and I'm going to talk really briefly on how I even came to this was, I took a class where part of it was to survey as many stakeholders as possible. And as you were doing, your letter's been going out to as many stakeholders as possible. And that's kind of what we need is like, hey, you know what, we all have a voice here, so we're trying to put it there. And that's nice because you've been actually proactive in saying, hey, you know what, let's start the conversation. You're extending your hand out and says, hey, you know what, let's talk. And that's like one of the first things, like at least someone is there to talk to. And it's like your letters are good because even if they say, we're busy or we got something, at least you extended that olive branch that says, hey, I'm here to talk. I can, did you ever tell me you spoke for a federal thing once? You got invited to?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the U.S. Attorney General here in Hawaii did what was called a marijuana summit back in 2018, and I was invited along with another APRN to speak at that event. Um, it was an interesting event. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm glad they invited you, to speak on it. This is the thing is that we always are looking for more places to put our voices, and this is where I'm glad you have a section on your website called updates. I think people can go there and find a lot of great information. But I think this is where we need to start obviously getting the conversation out there, and hopefully when we're able to review your website, show people that there's a lot more information, it leads them to what else that they could possibly do. And and in that way, it makes it where people have something to stand on. Because otherwise, I kind of feel like it's like quicksand, where like there's really good information, but we don't really get to stand on it, and it kind of just goes through. Where this way is like you've built a ladder of information through your updates and through your website, where people can go there and use it to kind of inch their way up and look at all the things, especially some of the letters. When you read it, you actually see what some of the issues that you're asking about, and this is where I think if anyone is interested in cannabis and Hawaii and on all these different levels, they should kind of read into some of these thoughts and ideas that you put out there. So that's why I'm really happy that you actually have some time for us to go through this, because I think it's super important for people to know where to find information, because there's not as much. Because even the word cannabis it spooks people out sometimes. So for my
Mhm.
class project, I actually didn't even really use the word and term until I really had to, just to kind of see how far I can get it where people aren't triggered. So for even my project and report, that presentation, I didn't even have a picture. It was black and white, it was text, and it was data. And as you were saying, the economic opportunities um, that I was realizing, especially with this pandemic, because we had an RCUH professor come and gave us a report, and they compared this pandemic to the 2008 financial crisis. And with
Hmm.
that, they were saying that we're probably going to go through a rough time for another 7 to 8 years. But if Hawaii doesn't have much to depend on, tourism is spotty, and what else, right? Well, there are other opportunities if we look into this cannabis space. And that's why, I'm glad that we're able to talk about it, because when you touched on, we need to know more about this federal and how it kind of puts this barrier on everybody within this community not being able to understand it and get to the next level. And then you're over here saying, hey, you know what? I have some insight. I have some ideas. And I know in another conversation you mentioned even the things that Iowa is doing and how you've had some insight with that, and how we have sort of a game plan because it's actually out there. Because if we're using things like the MedCan, if our local cannabis program is working with outside people, well, how, in what way does that really benefit us? And that's where, well, I think you made a connection once with the Iowa, and if Iowa is in the MedCan group, what can we learn from people like them? What are they doing, right? So that's where I'm just really glad that you've been able to share a lot of information with me and get me up to speed, and I'm hoping that we can share more to other people. That's why I think your site is a really good place for people to start. So I'll definitely make sure I'm gonna link your site in the description. I'm gonna put it. There we go. This is actually, go back to your front page. So I'm gonna link this site for everybody so that they can check it out. Cannabis Healthcare Hawaii. On that, you're gonna see the updates page, and through updates, there's a long list. You can see I can scroll all the way down, and there's a lot of good stuff here, people. So make sure you guys check that out. All right.
Well, and Kai, as you were just showing on my welcome page, I am a certifying physician with Hawaii's medical cannabis program, which means that I certify patients who want to enroll in the program. But I just want to point out that a lot of people throw this word prescribe around. We are not prescribing cannabis for patients. We would not be able to do that until there is an FDA approved botanical cannabis drug product available in our pharmacies like there is in the Netherlands. And I would say that we are not even recommending that patients use cannabis for medical purposes. This is something that patients have the right to choose under the Hawaii Patient Bill of Rights to decide how their body is going to be treated. And patients coming to me who want to enroll in the program, I have the ability to certify that they meet the criteria set by the state, and I'm able to offer advice on how to use cannabis safely and effectively within the doctor-patient relationship as required under state law. So my role, the certifying physician's role, is the way I see it, is to approach this from a harm reduction point of view, to help patients stay safe and get the most benefit out of a alternative medical treatment that they have decided to pursue that is authorized under state law.
Wow,
So I
that's
just wanted
well
to
said.
point that out so that that people are aware that I am involved in that at that level. And you also mentioned, starting the discussion, which I think is really critical. My hope is that the discussion will lead towards a unified approach to making the changes that need to occur. Part of the problem that I've encountered is that in a way I'm kind of in the middle. I've got folks who are scared to death of cannabis and think that it's evil on one side. And then I've got the recreational use people on the other side, and they're both moving in opposite directions and pulling us away from focusing on our patients. So if the discussion can lead towards a unified approach so that people can agree on what needs to change, because there is the danger that people are very enthusiastic about this substance and this program and can start just going out on their own and just trying to change things the way that they think they need to change, and sometimes that can be detrimental. So that was also part of the reason of putting that information on my website, is to show people what I've already been doing and tried to do, so that hopefully that doesn't need to be repeated, and hopefully can use that information. Because if the patients came together as a unified voice, that would be very difficult to ignore. I think there are nearly 30,000 patients now, and I know that patients are very busy. We're all very consumed right now, just trying to make it through every day, one day at a time. And patients, in addition, are trying to take care of their health, trying to survive. A lot do not have the resources or the time to try and approach the legislature on this. And I understand that. I'm not expecting patients to do that. But if there are people who want to get involved, I hope they will take some time to do their research and talk to other patients and other stakeholders, so that this could be a unified movement. I think that would be the greatest chance for creating the kind of changes that we need.
I agree. And you know what? I think we're lucky because we do have, a few cannabis groups around. I think, everyone has kind of started the conversation. And I think as we get more people to be a part of the conversation, we include more stakeholders. And I think with that, we kind of get a better view on how, whatever we're doing can hopefully help more people. I just think we're not moving at the rate of which we can be. And I think that's where, a lot of people we're trying to be as patient as we can. It's funny. We're patient, and that's maybe why they call us patients, right? So be patient, but also where are a lot of resources, right? So there's a lot of resources on your website. There's other cannabis groups in the islands that, we definitely want to feature coming up soon. So we can start to put the conversation more out there. And like you said, we have to talk to each other, share some light, which kind of leads me to something that I guess, where we are right now. So, as we can find a lot of great information on Dr. Otto's website, we also have where you can find and be more part of the Cannabis Society of Hawaii. So we do have a Patreon page that it's open to the public. You can be anywhere around the world and be a part of this. We have different memberships, and they have different perks. Our VIP and our advisory groups, we actually have a free, it comes with let me show you guys this real quick. It comes with a hemp hat. So these are actually made out of hemp, and we have 3 different styles that you guys can choose from up in the Patreon website. You can actually message us there and get a free hat with your first month. You can also purchase it as a regular supporter too. So anybody that just wants a hat can be a member and get the hat. But the biggest benefit is also our private forum. And this private forum is a way for you or anybody or that's a member to create a screen name or username to log into this forum that we can, share insight, opinions, tips, and it's really, a safer place. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's also CSOH 808.proboards.com. And just for as many people as possible for safety reasons, we try to eliminate the word cannabis. And we know that we could eventually be working with people in government or state, and we wanted to try to be as considerate as possible for allowing them to tap into this information from all over. So we're doing what we can to try to provide information, but not just be all out there with the word cannabis. However, we do have a YouTube site which you can see some of the videos, which this video would be uploaded to. The previous video we did with Peter is up on there, Peter Oshiro. You can also find us at Cannabis Society of Hawaii on IG. We have a backup IG at CSOH 808. We also have a Facebook group. But I'm going to say that face, Facebook isn't the best place of people wanting to provide information to each other. I know that sometimes people's name is on their Facebook account, so that's where it limits people from actually saying a lot. And that's why we do have the private forum. But we do have the Facebook page just to kind of get people interested and have some start information there. So if you do want to check out that, it's at facebook.com/groups/CSOH808, and you can check that Facebook out. But getting back to Dr. Otto's website real quick, Cannabis Healthcare Hawaii, that's a lot of great information there. Make sure you guys check out the updates page where he updates things. It seems like almost daily. So, I mean, there's a lot of fresh things up there. Definitely suggest you guys checking it out. And I want to bring Dr. Otto back on because I want to ask him about the MC Medical Cannabis Day. So this has been something I want to ask you for a while because I thought this was really unique, and it is definitely a step to get our voice out there. So can you tell me a little bit more about Medical Cannabis Day?
Sure. So this is something that I started in 2019 when I was just brainstorming on my own and trying to think of ways that we could raise awareness about the medical use of cannabis in Hawaii and what that really means, what the state actually did when it authorized the use of cannabis for medical purposes. That was a huge step, especially since cannabis is still a Schedule I controlled substance at the state and federal level. And so that has some very direct implications upon the federal regulation, which doesn't necessarily recognize state authorized use, even though this is a constitutional authority. So then I went back and said, okay, what was the day that Hawaii's medical use of cannabis bill was signed into law? And that was June 14th, 2000. That's when Governor Cayetano, the governor at that time, signed the bill into law. And I went down to the State Archives building, which right now is not the ideal time to visit it, but it is really a fascinating collection of state documents. And I went back and found the original copy of the bill and Governor Cayetano's signature, and proposed to Governor Ige that he declare June 14th, 1999 as Medical Cannabis Day for the state of Hawaii. Unfortunately, that was denied. And so the rollout of Medical Cannabis Day in 2019 was rather subdued. And then 2020, of course, was the 20-year anniversary of Hawaii authorizing the medical use of cannabis. And so I proposed to the mayors and, of course, the governor as well that they, again, declare that day as Medical Cannabis Day. And as you can see, all of the mayors agreed to declare Medical Cannabis Day, June 14th, 2020, as Hawaii Medical Cannabis Day for their county. I'm not sure how many people really realized that actually happened. Unfortunately, Governor Ige refused again to grant this day at the state level. But and also as you're scrolling through right now, I sent a flag flying request to Congresswoman Gabbard in 2019 and in 2000, and I have flags that were flown over the state capitol on June 14th, 2019 and 2020. I was just doing everything that I could to popularize this event, which is really significant for our patients. To have a state that was willing to authorize the use of cannabis under its sovereign authority so that patients could find relief for their debilitating medical conditions. And unfortunately, it wasn't really followed up with the kind of communications that are necessary at the federal level to do something about the conflict that was created. And so, yeah, I kind of had fun with this. Designed a logo, used a printing company, had a bunch of T-shirts printed up, this was all very small scale. But the point was to just put the idea out there, and that's a day that happens every year. So maybe that's something that could help patients focus around this issue in the future. Certainly want it to be something that's done safely, but that was kind of the history behind why I came up with that.
Well, I'm really glad that someone drew some attention to this, because weren't we one of the first to get medical cannabis? So like the 20 years, we were like one of the early ones. So the good thing is, it says that, you know, how much interest and how long we've been waiting for a better opportunity to make things better. But then in the 20 years, like, well, what have we done? And are we, you know, I don't want to say we're not last on the list of states to have it. So we're not really on the bottom, but we are in a place that we could make improvements. And that's where I'm glad there's people like you to draw attention to these issues that we need to discuss and talk about more, because if we're not talking about it, then someone else is, and they're making their own agenda. And if we don't include as many stakeholders as you said, then we might not have the best chance to help as many people. So, you know, I think you've touched on a lot of great things. I'm really excited that, you know, hopefully people get to your website and start going through it and checking out all the great information. But also, you know, maybe being a part of the Cannabis Society of Hawaii, where people can be able to voice their opinion in a private way, but also, you know, have that conversation with each other at their convenience when they want to, because I know, like you said, everyone is busy, and that's what we understand, is that, you know, information, it's we want to put it out there for everyone's convenience, and that's where your website is convenient, because people can go to it at any time, at any day, you know. So that's why I'm hoping that when we put the link up, you know, people can see it in all these different social media ways and click it and start just going through it, and maybe they'll see something that maybe sparks them, and, you know, maybe provides more insight for them, and we can, you know, round out this community and help each other out more. So, you know, I'm really glad that you're able to, you know, come in and touch on these things. You know, besides your website, is there anything else that you kind of wanted to touch on while we still got you?
Well, you know, one thing I just wanted to mention, just a comparison, because when, you know, if we compare our current situation with our medical cannabis program with the pandemic that we're in, when a Department of Health whistleblower came forward to reveal that that we were not really being told exactly what the contact tracing capability was, all of a sudden we had you know, Congress people involved, we had press conferences, and all of a sudden, you know, people are retiring, and there was a lot of attention, a lot of change that happened very quickly. And yet, when a whistleblower comes forward and points out that there are potentially harmful contaminants in products that are undergoing certain manufacturing processes without the proper regulatory oversight, nothing happens. It just kind of disappears. And unfortunately, there is still a stigma, I think an unconscious stigma, that medical cannabis patients are really second-rate citizens. They do not deserve the rights of a regular citizen because they have decided to engage in the use of this substance. And
Man,
that's
Dr.
something
Otto,
that we
chicken.
really need to overcome.
Yes, you are. Yes, I believe. Yes, exactly. You touched on so many great things. Is that we almost, penalize a patient because they're using cannabis, and we don't give them the same amount of consideration as we do others. And that's, as you're pushing on that, that those federal laws. That's why I think all the work you've been doing has been amazing. That's why I really want to shed light on everything you've been doing, because there's so much great stuff that you've put out there that maybe people aren't really seeing yet, and or maybe they are, and it's just good that we're able to talk about it and hopefully spread the word and share it with a neighbor, and that way we're just getting more people Akamai and smart and helpful to it. And so I want to also show my shirt, my beautiful shirt. I got a beautiful Akamai Cannabis Clinic shirt. So for all you guys that want one like me, you got lucky, because Dr. Otto has provided us with some giveaways for our people. So here's a what size is this one? This is a large in black and white. So we're gonna make this available for um, maybe we'll make it available for one. We'll do a poll for one of our Patreon members. But we also got a is this a charcoal gray Akamai Cannabis Clinic T-shirt. We're gonna probably do this one on we'll do this one on Instagram. We'll run a promotion, maybe you know like this and share this, and we'll pick somebody. So we got one of these, but also he hooked up a blue one. So we're gonna run some kind of another special thing with this later. So stay tuned for this. But appreciate Dr. Otto for the shirts for all of our people. And look at mine. Look at this cool design. Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Otto. I appreciate the gear for everybody. Can't wait to get this out. And again, if you guys can, go check out his website, cannabishealthcarehawaii.com. You can also check us out over here on the patreon.com/CSOH. Yeah, and we're gonna probably do another video coming soon with another guest. So stay up on our page. We have a Twitter, we have a Instagram, we have a Facebook. It's all there, and that's where you find all this new stuff coming out. Again, if you want a hat like mine, we have these for members. They're also made out of hemp, and that's where there's so many industrial capabilities to hemp that we haven't really touched the surface yet on this island here. I know they make a lot of things outside, but I think with what we have going on, the industrial hemp side could definitely help us out a lot with this economic disadvantage that we're in right now. Hopefully this can spark the conversation where we can talk about it a lot more, and pull our resources together to get to that next level and just help each other out. So I look forward to getting with you guys on this next video, so stay tuned. Thank you to Dr. Otto again. You can check out his website, and we hope to see you on the next video. So thank you guys so much, and I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later.